Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome once again to the Power Source at Upper Room in Preston, Minnesota. Thanks for joining us. If you're interested in the topic of relationship with God, not just short-term, but long-term, lifelong relationship is God's heart for us. He doesn't want us to trudge alone through life. You've definitely come to the right place to hear about that tonight. We have a very special guest here tonight. His name is Walter Bush, and he has come all the way from Rochester, and he's involved with a ministry that's operated in Rochester called Network for Life, or NFL, I guess, for short, right? Yeah. NFL, no trademark things there, right? Yeah, Network for Life. But we're going to hear all about some of his experiences.
I missed his standing ovation.
Oh yeah, we have to do the standing ovation. Yes, we do have a crowd here tonight. Yes, all right. Yeah. And we'll be having another member come and join us later. We'll introduce him later on in the show. But thanks for tuning in. So Walter, thanks for being here. This is awesome. You came all the way down for this. So a lot of times when we have people on our show, we always, I think people want to know kind of what your story is, like who are you and why are you a Christian, and we were discussing this a little bit beforehand, how I think everyone's story is different, everyone's journey is different, like how did you get from where you were to where you're at right now, and that's part of the fun, I think, hearing what God did along the way. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Eric, for inviting me. I'm so glad to be here. Well, it's a long journey. Like I said, my name is Walter Bush, and I'm the co-founder of Network for Life, which is a jail prison ministry out of Rochester. And it all started in the jail in Rochester, but how I got to Rochester started back in 1992. I came from Chicago. I was from a single mom, a home, no dad. My mom and my dad separated at the age of 12. I was born during that time in a little small town called Macon, Mississippi.
Okay, yeah.
In 1972, my mom and my dad separated. Like I said, I was 12 years old, and my mom moved with 11 children.
Wow.
To Chicago.
Not
They're
easy.
here 11?
Yes.
Wow.
And me being the oldest son at 12 years old, that was man of the house.
Yeah.
That was pretty much the end of my childhood at that point.
Wow.
Now, I always wanted to do the right thing, but like I said, I grew up with an older cousin who I idolized. Mm-hmm. He was also from a single family home, my mom's sister, and he was pretty much the man of the house. So he taught me a lot. But he taught me all the wrong things.
Oh, yeah.
He taught me how to hustle at an early age. Now I was really a gifted athlete. I could play football, basketball, all the sports I could play it, I played well. Mm-hmm. But being from a house where you're now the man of the house, you go to work at an early age.
Yeah.
So I think my first job was the age of 13.
Wow.
I was working part-time after school at a furniture store.
Okay. Wow.
But that wasn't bringing in no money. I had to have more money because we wore a lot of hand-me-downs, and that's not the way I wanted. We didn't have, we were poor.
Yeah.
We were poor.
Yeah.
So in order for me to look like the other kids, I started hustling, selling a little weed on the side. It wasn't long before I was smoking weed and drinking and doing all the things that a kid 13 years old shouldn't do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And to fast forward a little bit, I wanted to graduate from high school because I wanted to always make my mom proud of me. I wanted to be someone, but I was going the wrong path at it. And so by the time I finished high school, because I didn't get a chance to do a lot of practicing and I played sports like I wanted to, I decided I was going to go into the U.S. Army.
Okay.
I was going to go in and get the GI Bill.
Sure, yeah.
After the Army, I was going to go to school. But by the time I got out of the Army, I'd already started a family.
Wow, okay.
So now here I am 20, getting ready to turn 21, but getting out of the Army was already a kid. And so I come back to Chicago and I picked up right where I started, working, but still hustling. Well, that wasn't for long that I was in drugs, hard drugs. And
selling them or doing
selling them and doing them.
Okay.
Like I said, even while I was in the military, I was doing drugs and selling drugs. I had never done any hard drugs before the military. It all started off with a little LSD, doing acid. The next thing you know, it was cocaine.
Kind of snowballs.
And like you said, I came home in 1980. I went to Army in 77. I got home in 80. And like I said, I started a family, and pretty soon we moved in together, and still doing the same thing, like I said. And all of a sudden, like I said, now I got a wife, I got a baby, and a baby on the way. And
that's a lot.
And not making a lot of money, so I'm still in drugs. Next thing you know, I'm addicted. I got a real bad drug habit. But I'm still maintaining the job, still trying to support a family. I thought by me being able to keep a roof over my family head, keep food on the table, and make sure they got the things that they need, because I didn't want my kids to grow up like me. Poor with nothing and living, on welfare. No, that's not gonna be the way we're gonna live. And so I'm thinking that even though selling drugs and doing drugs is wrong, I'm doing the right thing. I'm a responsible person. In 1982, my mom packed up the family and moved my younger siblings and herself to Rochester, Minnesota.
Oh, interesting.
I drove the U-Haul to move them up here. So when we got here, my mom says, "Well, what are your plans?" I says, "I'm going back to Chicago. No way am I going to stay in Hooterville." Like I said,
Rochester was smaller back then.
It was like nothing I'd ever seen. The culture and everything in Rochester. No, it ain't from
Chicago,
me. It's not for me. So, like I said, I caught the next bus leaving going back to Chicago.
Interesting.
But every chance I get, I would visit Rochester, and it would have been up in 91. I got laid off from my job. And I wanted a better life. We came to Rochester for Labor Day weekend. And that Monday night, I get back home to Chicago. I watched someone get killed on the steps of the house I was staying in.
Wow.
And I said, that is it. I've had enough.
Moving back.
We're moving to Rochester. We're moving to Rochester. So this is 91, 92. The school was out. Well, matter of fact, I left in February and moved to Rochester. Landed a job with IBM. And when school was out, we got my wife and the rest of my kids. The younger one, which was 18 months, came with me. So he came with me. So we went back and got my wife and the kids and came here. And like I said, life was good for a while.
I was going to say, did moving help at all? Or did the drug thing
The drug was still with me. It was still going. I never completely left the drugs alone because, like I said, I had started doing heroin. And heroin, you just don't let go like that.
Yeah, that's tough. And during this whole season of your life, all the way up through moving to Rochester, did you was anyone in your family Christian, would you say, or did they go to church at all? Or
we was raised in the church.
You were? Interesting. Okay.
My dad was actually a pastor.
Was he really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. So how did you reconcile kind of what was happening in your life then? Did you ever go to church to try and resolve what was going on, or did you avoid church because of what was happening in your life, or what was happening there?
I avoided church.
Yeah.
I wanted no parts of church. Church was for those weak people who need something to I crushed the lean on. Man, I was strong. I got life figured out. I know what I want. I know how to get it.
A lot of people think that out there, I think, in the world. This is a common theme, I think, probably for people. So
I'm going to make a lot of money. And like I said, not knowing that I'm never going to make that money, because the fact you get the money, that money flee. You know, that money, like you said, Proverbs, I think Proverbs says that that money that you earn like that flees, grow wings, and fly away. And that's what was happening with that.
That's very appropriate. Yeah.
And like I said, I was definitely still using heroin heavy, you know, but I was functional because I always had it. And my problem were the person that had a drug problem were the one that didn't have drugs. I didn't have a drug problem because I had plenty of drugs.
Oh, interesting.
So, and that's
an interesting way to reason it, isn't it?
That was my thinking. That was actually my thinking. I didn't have a drug problem because I had drugs. You know?
That's one way.
That is one way to look at it.
Well, like I said, you know, and like I said, I'm thinking life is good. I am living it. I'm making money, and everything is going great.
Okay.
You know, but for some reason, I had no peace, because it's always, is this going to be the day that either someone kill me, or I kill somebody, or the police, I get arrested. So it's always that fear of that. And now, me going to jail and prison, jail I was okay, because I'd been going in and out of jail, but I had always, everything I've gotten into, I've gotten out of it. You know, I got this attitude that there was nothing that I could get into that I couldn't get myself out of.
Interesting. Okay.
Well,
interesting.
You know, and I used to always say, you know, this Yogi Bear, you always say I was smarter than the average bear.
Yeah.
And that was the attitude I had. I said it a lot, you know, I'm smarter than the average bear. Yeah.
That's funny.
You know, I did. I thought I was a pretty smart guy. You know, I had life all figured out.
And then God proved you otherwise.
Yeah, well, I honestly believe that I did that to myself. October 1st of 2001, it was a Monday. I got down. I just grown a little tired, and I was going to take a break for a couple of days. So I went up. I had a bunch of money in my pocket. I went up to my room, got down on my knees to get a little safe from underneath the bed that I put my money in. Pulled the safe out, put my money in there, and while I was down there, I said, Lord, I know there's got to be something better. This is not the life I want to live. Could you please take it away from me? Now, I said that prayer knowing that I had a way that I wanted him to do this. I had a plan.
Yeah.
And as long as he went along with my plan, we
stay in the lane.
Yeah, we're going to be great as long as you're working this the way I want it to work.
I think a lot of people think that way, actually. I think that's a common
thing. I didn't. I just didn't want to use the drugs anymore. I wanted to continue to make the money. But I just didn't want the drugs. But like I said, little did I know, that's when he had the plan. You know, he says, well, I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plan not to harm you, but to prosper you, to give you hope in the future. Well, I didn't know nothing about Jeremiah 29:11. I didn't know nothing about that, so I wanted him to work it according to my plan. So October 3rd of 2001.
Just a couple days later.
Was my rescue date.
Wow.
Now, my rescue date were, he sent angels for me, but it was not the type of angels I wanted to see. It was the Rochester Sheriff Department, Upstate County Sheriff Department, Rochester Police Department.
Interesting. 2 days after you said that prayer.
I said that prayer.
Wow.
6 a.m. in the morning. Boom! They kicked the door open. But I'm going to show you how that worked. That Tuesday, everything that I had in the house, every drug, every gun, everything I had, I moved. I took it away from the house.
Wow.
So when they raided me, they found absolutely nothing.
Huh.
They found money that they claimed was marked money, but it wasn't, because I didn't keep
Yeah.
marked money. I knew that.
Interesting.
But I was okay with that. And so they drug me off to the Olmsted County Jail. Now, Paul Wilson, the arresting officer, Detective Paul Wilson, drug me out of my bed. I had on some boxer shorts. And I says, Paul, can I put my pants on? He said, no, because I have some clothes for you. And I said, no problem. I'll be back home for noon. So let's go. So we went down there. Little did I know I wasn't going to be home for that noon.
Oh, man.
You know. So they took me down to Olmsted County Jail. You know, so I called my wife and says, you come on down and get me. She said no. And it's eye-opening experience for me there now, you know. But it was okay because, like I said, I knew that they had not a whole lot on me.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I was pretty comfortable that everything was going to work out. And after sitting there a while, like I said, I went through withdrawals. And they're all just the most awful withdrawals. Like I said, I just wanted to lay there and die. You know, and I thought that I was going to die. I didn't know nobody ever died from withdrawals from heroin. The alcohol withdrawals, I've heard people die, but not from heroin.
Yeah.
So it was an awful month or so before I could start to figure things out.
And during that whole time, did your mind ever go back to that prayer you said? That
No,
prayer?
not
At that point. You were like
Not at that
right?
point.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
Now, they finally moved me over to the main population. And when they moved me over to the main population, I had a friend that me and him is my get high buddy and everything, named Willie Perry.
Okay.
Willie and I are still close friends today. He's worked for Damascus Way, you know.
Okay. Yeah.
I sit down at the table with Willie. And I say, hey man, you know, I'm tired, I can't do this no more. He looked at it and said, don't worry, man. As soon as you get out here and get you another blow, you're going to be all right. I said, no, that's what I'm saying. I'm through. I ain't never going to do it anymore.
Huh.
So there was a guy standing on the peel line getting his medication named Harry Short. Willie said, why don't you go over there and talk to that guy over there? I walked over and introduced myself to Harry Short. And I was asking him about what he do, what's going on. He said, oh, I'm going to a Bible study tonight. A friend of mine comes in and do these Bible studies.
Huh.
Maybe you should come and go with me, and I introduce you. So I walked up to the desk, and there was a deputy on duty named Doug Mark Hardy. Doug and I are still really good friends today. And I asked him, can I go to the Bible study? He said, no, you have to sign up for the Bible study a week in advance.
Oh.
So you're not going to be able to go.
Okay. Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, like 6 o'clock, they hit the lock for the guys to go to Bible study. And Doug points at me and says, hey, ain't you going to the Bible study?
Right.
And I go to the Bible study, and Harry Short introduces me to this man named Andy Kylan, who was a volunteer at the Olmsted County Jail that comes in and do the Bible studies.
And we might be hearing from him shortly. He might be a guest here.
So I sit there during the Bible study. I don't think I said anything. And I listen. And I'm thinking to myself, this guy don't have a clue about life. He's got to be the dumbest man I ever heard. This guy, all he's talking about is...
I like that he's hearing all this in the audience.
Well, he knows that. He knows that. This ain't the first time. But, you know, this quickly changed, you know.
Yeah.
That was just the thought for then.
Yeah.
But, you know, I already had a plan. Okay, I'm going to figure this out, but I'm not coming back to one of these here. Like I said, I'm a pretty smart guy. I can figure this out. But it's not going to be like this here. So I had planned when I left there, that was going to be the end of it. I was never going to go back to another one.
Okay.
But for some odd reason, the next Monday night, guess who's on the list for Bible study?
Oh, interesting.
Here I am at another Bible study. So after about maybe the second or third Bible study from that, I started thinking, maybe this guy's onto something. I've tried everything else. Maybe I should try this. You know, what have I got to lose at this point?
I mean, at that point, you'd been, hustling. I mean, how many years? Decades at that point. Decades. I mean, and trying every other thing basically to. Well, I mean, there are a lot of reasons people do it, and you've explained it really well. But yeah, so there was always kind of this piece missing. Is that kind of the feeling? Like the peace, like. Literally a piece of you, but also peace. Like a feeling of peace.
There's something missing.
Yeah. And so when you were going to these Bible studies, like, would you be in there and there was something clicking, like, inside here? Like, I don't know what this is, but it's something? Is that kind of what was happening?
Yeah, that's exactly. Something here is going on. I have no clue. And so I remember one night playing after Bible study, I went back to my cell. I got on my knees and I prayed. I got up off my knees, and right above the toilet in the cell, they got a little tin mirror right above the toilet. And I looked in this mirror, and I don't like the person I see in that mirror. And I just broke down in tears, and I'm bawling. And I got a Bible I really don't understand, but I noticed Harris Shorty's got this really nice life application study Bible.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I asked him, I said, well, where did you get this Bible? He said, I got it from Andy. So next Monday night, I go to Bible study, and I asked Andy for one of those Bibles. He says, I got a series of workbooks. It's 5 workbooks. Basic Christianity, and all that stuff, these workbooks. He said, you complete these workbooks, and I will buy your Bible.
Wow. That sounds like a deal.
And well, like I said, he brought my first workbook.
Yeah.
Then probably a week, I gave it back to him, he bring so within a month, maybe a little bit better, I done finished these workbooks. And I can remember Andy giving me that Bible. This was really the first time that I showed any emotion besides anger. And now, this Bible is just like the best gift I've ever gotten. And it just teared me up. And I started to read this Bible. And someone told me, says, you need to start reading Proverbs. So I started reading the book of Proverbs.
That's a good one.
Oh, yeah. Well, reading the book of Proverbs, there was 2 types of man. There was a wise man, and there was a foolish.
Yeah.
Well, being a smart guy, I just found out that you're a fool. And so, no, I'm not reading this anymore.
Yeah. Right.
But then all of a sudden I remember, it said, fools hate knowledge. So maybe I better start reading this.
Yeah,
you don't want to be
wise.
you want to be wise. And so now I am really starting to buy into this here because something about me is starting to change. Andy and I has already started to build this relationship where Andy just pops up just to do one-on-one visit. And one day I was having really a rough day. And I'm saying, well, maybe this Christianity thing is not all it cracked up to be. So I said, Lord, if you for real, show yourself to me. It wasn't even 15 minutes later. They said, Bush, you got to visit. It's Andy. I'm like, well, what does this guy want?
God, is that you?
I want to see God. I don't want to see this guy.
Lord works in mysterious ways sometimes.
He brought just what I needed to hear at that time.
Exactly, yeah.
And all of a sudden, something's really clicking now. And so, probably maybe a month or so later, Andy and I sit down and talk. I said, Andy, I got something I want to ask you, And I started telling him about what I'm struggling with, and and I say, my lawyer tells me not to worry about this year. We're gonna beat this year, but I don't feel good. He said, I got one thing to ask. Did you do it? I said, yes. He said, well, I don't have to tell you anything. So I went back to the cell. I picked up the phone. I called my lawyer, Rachel Dreckenpool. I said, Rachel, I'm going to plea out. I'm not going to fight this anymore. Her exact words was to me, have you lost your mind? I said, yeah, I think so.
Maybe I found it this time.
I think so. I said, I ain't never snitched on anybody in my life, but now I'm ready to snitch on me.
Yeah.
She said, well, if that's what you want to do. I said, yeah. I said, that's what I want to do. I said, you know, regardless of what happened, I read that Jesus said that he would never leave me nor forsake me. She said that he's going to go to prison with you because they're not going to give you treatment. They're not going to give you probation.
Wow.
They want you off the street to go into prison.
Wow.
And I said, well, I guess we're going to go to prison together.
Huh. That is a pivotal moment right there in your life. That is a huge thing.
Yeah, very.
Wow. What a crossroads moment.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, you chose God over, over that wrong path, really. And part of me wonders what would have happened if you wouldn't have listened to, what God was really telling you.
I can almost guarantee you, Eric, that we're not sitting here having this conversation today. Either I am still put away in prison for a long time, someone have killed me, or I've died of overdose.
It's an interesting thing to think about.
Because I know the thing that I didn't want most was to go to prison. And all of a sudden, I'm going to give up and go to prison.
And it's interesting, too. It struck me that the way your attorney responded is really the way the world, I think, responds a lot of times when any Christian does the godly thing or the right thing sometimes. It's like the world can't comprehend it sometimes because it's like the world tells you you're going to lose this, and this, and this. They don't understand, but you're going to gain life. You're going to gain your life, and freedom and peace and these things that you can't quantify, that the world doesn't really comprehend, and it's interesting. I think there are a lot of people that they almost live their whole lives thinking like the world does. Like, I care more about what the world says instead of what God is saying, and it's interesting. In that moment, you chose what God was saying, and it changed everything.
It changed everything.
That's an act of courage.
I tell everybody because I knew the fact that if I go to prison, I could possibly lose my family. Everything I had was going to come back to nothing. But I was willing to take that chance because I actually called my wife and she came down to visit me. And I told her that if she went on with her life, I would be okay with that. I just want you to make sure, keep the family together, take care of the kids. I don't care about me anymore. I want you to be happy because you deserve better.
Wow.
And her words to me was, no, I am not going anywhere. When we made these vows, I not only made these vows to you, I made these vows to God. And I'm going to honor them this time. She always said this time, but I can promise you, if you come out and you go back and show me any indication that you're going back to this old lifestyle, I will move on. I look at her and says, I'm not going to make you any promises because I've never kept one yet. So I'm not going to make nothing that I can't keep. So we're just going to have to take a chance, And even when I came to God and he was changing my life, I came to him and said, I'm not coming to you to make any promise or ask for anything. If this is going to work, it's going to totally be on you. I don't have anything. I love the old Western movies. I still watch it today, and I love it when the guy says, don't shoot, I give up. And that's the way I felt when I came before God. I give up. I've had enough. I can't do it anymore.
But God can use that. That's exactly, that's okay. Sometimes that's what it takes, is kind of breaking down our will to the point where I think God can mold us a little easier,
And like I said, we went into court, even though I pleaded out, they said, we're not going to give you any deals. The top of the box is 81 months. That's the most I can get if I take this to trial or anything, was 81 months. I said, no, I'm not going to fight it. I'll take the 81 months.
Wow.
They gave me 81 months.
Wow.
But I went to boot camp.
Interesting.
I got to go to boot camp.
Huh.
I was gone exactly 2 years and 10 days.
Wow.
I was arrested October 3rd. I came home October 13th, 2 years later.
Huh.
Now, when I got home on October 13th, the first call I made, as soon as I walked in the house, I picked up the phone and said, "Hey, Andy." Well, before I wrote Andy a letter before I left the prison, saying I'm going to be getting out, and I asked him would he be willing to mentor me. He responded back and says, "Yes, I would." Like I joke with everybody, I said, if I knew what I was getting myself into, I called the mailman and got that letter back. Because like I said, he agreed to mentor me. But Andy and I never, the whole time I was locked up, we communicated. I could call Andy, he was going to answer the phone, and I used to joke with him and say, when your phone rang, you're going to look at Peggy and say, "Don't answer that now." So, but the first call I made was Andy, and it was a Tuesday afternoon. And he was telling me about the Bible study they got Thursday night over at First Baptist. He'll pick me up for Bible study. And I said, "Andy, be honest, by Thursday I'll be back in prison. We need to do something now." And so he said, "I can't get to you today. Don't answer your phone. Don't go out and do nothing. I'll pick you up tomorrow." So he picked me up the next day. We went to lunch. After lunch, he took me over to the Rochester Network for re-entry the house, and the ministry had started. And that's when he introduced me to, well, Harry Short was the one who introduced me to Andy. Tony Monica was Harry Short's buddy. We was all went through this at Moose Lake together, county jail together. And I met Randall Shaw passing. But Tim Hall, those 4 guys were there. There was 4 guys
who'd been in jail with you.
Yeah, but they wanted to do something different. And what they were doing was what I wanted. I wanted that. Like I said, I didn't need a place to stay. I needed a place to belong. And so I would go over it. Now, being a boot camp program, they were really strict about coming and going. But they told me, as long as you are going over to the network for reentry, we don't have a problem with it. Just put it on your schedule. So I put it on there for almost every day that I was going to go over and hang out with Andy, But see,
interesting.
There was an angle there too, because long as I was with Andy, they didn't care what going. So when Andy go out and eat and do different things, so I'm hanging out, So we're having a blast. And then, like I said, as time goes on, Andy would start taking me to these reentry conferences and different things with him, and did little projects around the ministry. He asked me to do that, take you guys do this, and I'm saying, wow, this is really great. And then, like I said, all of a sudden I started a job, a business through the Rochester Network for Reentry. Network Outdoor serves a landscaping company that we're employing the guys that come in out of jail to give them something to do.
Sure, yeah.
And about a couple of years into that, I have a car accident where I had to have back surgery. I can't do that anymore. And so that's when Andy started to ask me about going into ministry. I can never forget it. It was another Tuesday in the afternoon.
Tuesday.
And he comes to me and asks me about my plans and everything. And that's what I told him. I says, "No." I says, "I'm going to go back to doing what I'm doing, go back to work and doing." And he says, "Who are you kidding? Half the time you can't even walk. You can't do that anymore." And he says, "I want you to leave here. I want you to go home and I want you to pray about it. And next Tuesday, I want you to come back. And if you tell me you don't want to do it, I'll never ask you again." He said, "You're already doing it. Why not get paid for it?" And so when he says, "Okay, go home and pray about it." So I had a plan because I wasn't going to do it. So if I don't go home and I don't pray about it, I don't open my Bible, and I don't go to church on Sunday, then I ain't going to do it.
Yeah.
So I didn't pray the whole week, ain't on my Bible the whole week. And Sunday I didn't even go to church because I ain't doing it. And I was really excited the whole way back over to the office there because I would walk in and tell him I ain't going to do it, and he's going to leave me alone. I walk in and says, "Okay, I'm going to do it."
Like, did those words just come out of my mouth? What just happened? I was planning all week not to say those words.
Yeah.
Like, what happened there?
And and that's where from that time on till October of 2013 were all the training and all the learning and everything that Andy poured into me, you know what I mean? He was just, I spent more time talking to Andy, growing and learning, you know, about this ministry, you know, and in 2013, I heard the Minnesota Teen Challenge was coming to town. I always wanted to work with Teen Challenge.
Sure, yeah.
So I decided that I was going to leave and go to take a job at Minnesota Teen Challenge. Now, I don't know why all of a sudden I want to leave, you know, but I'm not. For some reason, I'm not happy in the job anymore. But during that time, my wife had breast cancer, and I was so wrapped up in the job that my wife and I really had very little communication. You know, we passing, you know, she wasn't even going to tell anybody anything about it. But when I resigned from Next Chapter, and I took a part-time job at Damascus Way, working overnight to Minnesota Teen Challenge, get there in February 2014. But every morning I'm laying there trying to sleep. The house phone, we still got a house phone, it rang and it won't stop ringing. And I'm looking at this Mayo Clinic, 538-1800, whatever that number is. And I said, why do they keep calling me? I just at work. So I pick up and hang right back up. And finally one day I was going to tell them off and get them to stop calling. And it was her doctor, Elaine.
Oh no.
And she says, Walter, I really need to talk to Ida. I can't tell you about what I want to talk about because of the doctor-patient confidentiality. I can't talk to you about it, but you need to have Ida call me. So when Ida got home that evening, I said, why your doctor keep calling here? Why are you refusing to call your doctor? And she said, these quacks talking about they seeing something on my mammogram. I feel fine. I'm not going through this yet. I said, oh yeah, you're going to call her back right now. And you're going to make an appointment. Now she called, and it was a Thursday evening. I'm actually getting ready to go. I'm going to go to Bible study over at Autumn Ridge. That's Thursday night, and then do the Bible study at Autumn Ridge. So I'm going over to this Bible study. And it's like 4 something. And her doctor says, my last appointment's at 4:30. I'll see you at 4:45. I said, okay, I'm going with you. I ain't going to Bible study. This must be important. I'm going. And so we went, and they talked her into doing a biopsy. Yeah. And it came back. She had breast cancer. Yeah. And so now I'm figuring I already left my job, and this is what's going on. It wasn't about the job or anything, you know. And so all of a sudden, I wanted the interview with Teen Challenge, and I got hired for Teen Challenge. But I decided to stay at Damascus Way because during that time, I was able to take time to be with my wife. Right. So we can walk us through this here. Yeah. And so I stayed at Damascus Way for 5 years. Wow. Huh. And during those 5 years, I watched the program change. And it was changing in a way I didn't want to go. Okay. So that's when I called Andy. And Andy and I always kept in touch. We never lost touch, you know. Yeah. Even though I left Next Chapter, we always kept in touch. Yeah. And so I says, we want to talk. And I decided that we were going to have every other Thursday, we was going to meet together and have lunch at his house. And so I say work. All of a sudden they switched my schedule, so now I can't have lunch. But and I still found ways to meet. And then I started to talk about what was going on at Damascus Way. And like I said, that's when he told me, he said, if you want to just complain, we ain't got nothing to talk about it. If we want to do something about it, then let's figure out what we're going to do. That's a good way to do it. So we started to talk about it, then all of a sudden, I want to start a ministry. And he says, when you want to start it? So we talked about a starting date. And during that same time, like I said, Andy, the next Thursday, I think when we met for lunch, he says, Pastor Jeff don't you know Jeff and Pastor Aaron over at Bear Creek? I said, yeah, I got their number. He says, I heard they have some spots over there. Maybe you want to call them and talk to them about office space or something. Mm-hmm. But during the same time that Andy and I having this conversation, my phone keeps ringing. I keep shutting it down, And it's Rod Raver, a friend of mine. And so as I walked out from with Andy, and we talking about Pastor Jeff, Rod said, I'm talking to a guy here at work, and he goes to Bear Creek over there, and he tells me you should call Pastor Jeff. I said, do you believe, Rod, that that's what Andy and I were just talking about? So we called Pastor Jeff. And Pastor, we go.
Clear sign there.
Yeah. So we called Pastor Jeff, and then I go over to meet Pastor Jeff, and he shows us the space. And we decided to rent a little office space, which was this, the studio. This is a little apartment, a little house, a little building across the parking lot. Yep. When he walked over there, and I, with my phone, I take a picture of Pastor Jeff opening that door. Huh. When he opened that door, we went inside. It was a mess. But I felt that was it. And I looked at it, and then they looked at me and what's the thing? I said, this is it. So we talked to Pastor Jeff, and he told us he'll rent it to us.
This was about 2018 or something?
2018,
yeah.
Yep. So he says, I says, what do you want? Yeah. He said, $600 a month. He said, how are you planning to pay for it? I says, well, I quit my job. I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. So God is going to have to do something here. And he says, okay.
They know God can do something. $600 is nothing.
He says, okay. Yeah. But then we look at it, and with all the work that needs to be done, and we wait on them to get it done, it's not going to happen anytime soon. So Andy says, well, what do you want to do? Let's get it together. So Andy says, okay, well, I commit to this month, and I commit this month. So we started tearing our floors and tearing our walls, and and we, out of our own pocket, we turned the studio out to the place the office was at. We put in floor, and we tore out walls, and we brought a crew in. Like I said, with Charles Johnstone, he was a guy that, and then I knew from the jail. Rod Raver, Brock Barkin was another guy that came through the next chapter. So it was guys that had came through the ministry and through the jail that we had gotten to know that helped us do all the work. So all the labor, we paid for the material, but all the labor came free. You know, so
that's interesting.
This was the end of May. June 30th of that same year.
Was it a Tuesday?
No. it was a Saturday. It actually was a Sunday evening. It was the opening house. It was a Sunday evening. It was the open house we had an open house for Network for Life. The NFL. That was June 3rd, 2018. That was the day. And I said there. Yeah, and like I said, to watch God work during that time, you know, everything fell into place. Next thing you know, we have a 6-bedroom apartment over at Bear Creek. We got guys coming in, you know, and it's all God, you know, because like I said, I can't make this happen, you know, I can't.
Well, the other thing that strikes me about it is those relationships that God developed over the previous 10 years or longer is really what, in the end, ended up coming into play with that. Even the people showing up to help, remodel. I mean, it was all relationships that God had brought into your life. I mean, and I think that's God's heart for people is He doesn't want us to do this alone. You know, and that God's all about relationship, and that's really what this story was about God's relationship with you and bringing others into relationship with you. And creating a network of people, right?
A network for life.
A network for life, yeah. And the other thing that really strikes me is that none of these people were just in your life and then gone and you never saw them again or anything like that. It was like they were in your life and they stayed in your life, you know. And I think that's also the way God operates is He wants relationship to be forever, you know, not just I'm here and then see ya. You'll never see me again, you know? And I think that's what really strikes me about this testimony here, as opposed to some, some, I think, well-meaning Christians and ministries will, and we talked about this a little bit, I think, earlier, they'll come in and they'll say, hey, here's Jesus, and stuff, and then see ya, good luck out there in the real world, kind of one of those things. Whereas this is more, this whole ministry, and we'll hear more about this too. We'll maybe bring Andy in here, to talk about this some too, but it's more about how can we stay in relationship, not just for now or next year or 10 years, but the rest of your life. Like, this is for life. You're going to know us till our last breath, we're going to know each other, and be involved with each other and the other people in the program. And that's the impression I've gotten.
Yeah, but that's exactly what it is, because like I said, even when we left Bear Creek and moved over to 917 4th Avenue Northwest, those same people that had brought into our lives were still involved, because we moved over there. We had our Monday night Bible study had grown so big that there was not space in the house. There was not space in the house for us to have that Bible study. But there was this old rundown garage in the back.
Yeah.
And Andy says, well, what about this? We can have Bible studies in here. I'm like, no.
In the garage.
No, we probably need to tear this down. And Brock, one of the guys that helped us the remodeling over there at Bear Creek, he looks at it and says, oh yeah, I can frame this out, and we can put up sheetrock, and we can put in floor, and we can do this and that, and we can take these doors out and put in windows, and like.
Is that the same garage where you still have the?
Yes.
I've been there. That is actually a nice meeting space. It is a nice meeting space.
Yeah. And then like you said, and even all the work that we've done over there, was all work from the guys that has been in the program, that God has brought in the program. Like you said, we had stumps and all types. We had this hill that's nothing but brick and limestone. We took out all the brick and limestone. We put in retaining walls. We put in flowers in, and I just watched God work in all together all the time. We was building those relationships, and we was enjoying each other while we were doing that. Because we would have so much fun doing the work. Right. I know Andy and I used to work together. We had be hard work, but we're enjoying it. We're laughing, we're talking, and Andy, he looked at me and said, it should be a sin to have this much fun while you're working. So.
Exactly.
But that's all a part of building relationships, like I said, and even with the guys right now that are at the house. And that's what we're all about, relationships, sitting down. We have these Monday nights, we have these Saturday mornings. Yeah. And our Saturday mornings, like I said, our Bible study and breakfast. Yeah. We bring guys in not only from Damascus Way, next chapter, Bear Creek, but every Saturday we get together and have breakfast and we enjoy each other. It's not just like someone starts the conversation and does all the talking. A Bible study on a Saturday is where we all interact, One guy may say, well, this is what I see. The next guy said, this is what I see. And we all put it together, and it's so much, it's so good. Because I remember when Andy talked to me about doing the Saturday morning, and I said, Andy, I'm very busy. I have other things going on. I don't think I want to do Saturday mornings. Then I said, well, maybe every other Saturday. But it's hard for me. Only way I'm going to miss a Saturday is I'm not in town. That's just how, because it's, like I said, it's the community, it's the fellowship. Yeah. And that's what we want for each guy that comes through, to be able to have that fellowship and community where you always be a part of it. Right. Like right now, we are sent out each and every month about 60 letters to the jails and the prisons in the state to let people know what we're doing, that when you get out, you have somewhere to come. You don't have to be a resident here, but it gives you a place to come.
That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
Every month.
Wow. Should we bring the man in here? The one, the only. Andy Kylan, come on down. You're the next guest on the Power Source. Yeah.
Here he is, everyone. He is real.
It's it'll take me just a moment. I'm gonna.
We'll get him in the shot, I promise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm working on it.
So, but it's really interesting to see what God did with just the early days of this and what it's grown into now. I mean, we're 8 years into it. I mean, this will be the 8th year, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so and Andy got to hear everything we were just talking about. You know, did he recount everything accurately? Pretty much like that, I guess.
Yeah, it's but one of the things I've always said in ministry, and I see this in Walter and in a lot of the guys that I've had an opportunity to interact, is when you see life change like that, it's really the glory of God. Because Jesus is the agent of change.
Yes.
None of us are. And that's something we constantly have to remind ourselves of.
Right.
Because a lot of times in ministries, you're there because you want to make a difference.
Yeah.
And sometimes you think you can, but really in the ministry, it's Jesus is the agent of change
Right.
that we rely on.
And there has to be this moment, like he said. I thought it was a great example because I've had this moment too. I think a lot of people in ministry have, where you literally have to go, God, if this is going to happen, it's you. You got to do this. I don't know how to get from point A to point B. And God's very faithful at getting people there or bringing people into your life to help you get there, you know. And that's really what this is an example of. I just got goosebumps thinking about that because I've experienced that. I think each one of us has at some point. And it really strikes me how this was all born from a single moment where you said a simple prayer, and it wasn't anything big and flowery or anything like that. It was this very simple, heartfelt prayer in the moment, putting that money into that box under your bed. I mean, that's huge. And I think that's a takeaway that I think a lot of people at home can probably relate and should maybe take to heart a little bit is, God just wants you to be real, wants your heart. And then also to surrender to God, like your will be done, God, help me along the way to help stay in the midst of that will and what you're doing, but you'll have to steer the ship here maybe. So, yeah. And
from a ministry standpoint, Walter talks a lot about the influence that I've had in his life, but I could talk a lot about the influence he's had in my life. And I think that's the relationship part that God wants to bring us to. We're all equal, right? The ground at the foot of the cross is level. And just because I was instrumental in his life in the beginning, God meant that relationship. 24 years later, we're still having dinner together, enjoying one another, talking about our lives. I talk as much about my own problems as he talks about.
Right.
I mean, I do.
And that's a prime example of iron sharpening iron. I mean, that's very biblical. So that's how it's supposed to be.
And that from the beginning of the ministry, that's the intimacy that we all long for, and that God made us for. That's what we're always striving for.
So in the 8 years since Network for Life has been officially up and running, I guess you could say, how many people have come through your program, would you say, if you had to guess?
100.
That is a lot of lives changed there. And I mean, out of those 100, I mean, do you still know most of them or have contact with most of them?
I can tell you most of them, and I run into a lot of them, but probably maybe a third of them I still have contact with,
And it was interesting how you said, like, out of the blue, they'll contact you sometimes, and you get this too.
Yeah.
And it's really a blessing to hear from them a couple years later, and you hear the good things that God has done and the path they're on with God, and God has created other relationships for them. So
most of the time I have found in ministry is that it's more about my relationship with God than it is about my relationship with someone else. And as that blessing comes back to you in the form of a guy calling and saying thank you, or here's what's happening in my life. You know, and you hang up the phone. So, boy, he didn't have to call me. Why did he call me? But he, you know, there's that relationship that's there,
Right.
because God had put that together.
Yeah, and that's really the way this ministry is set up too. I know we were discussing this at the very beginning before we started about how, you know, this is meant to be a continuing thing. After a person gets out of incarceration, wherever, you know, this is a thing a lot of people struggle with, and you recounted this. I mean, when you were talking too, like, boy, you know, if I don't, something bad is going to happen if I don't have you right now to kind of run interference for me, because there's this tendency to go right back into the old way of doing things because that's familiar, you know, and it's a way of breaking that pattern. I think is kind of the way it's being described. Like, God can break that pattern by bringing people in and creating those relationships and giving you a different option, a different choice, basically. And that's what's so unique about this ministry is you're saying, we'll be there, you know, and we were talking beforehand too about how both of you have had this happen, but you even recently, where people will call you in the middle of the night. I mean, in a life or death situation sometimes, or a struggle that's happening with them, and you're there. I mean, for them in a lot of different ways. But I mean, can you talk a little bit about that? Like, I mean, what is your role there? I mean, or how often does that happen?
It don't happen too often, but it does happen. You know, someone. Normally, it's those guys who give you that call that time of night. They have gotten into this relationship with this woman. They have moved out the house. They have went to stay with this woman, and they were going to be this knight in shining armor, and all of a sudden, everything goes just the opposite. And now they got back using, they got drunk, and they got high, and they. In this crisis, they got nowhere to go because the woman put them out, and it just, you know, what do you do? Like I said, sometimes, you know, you says, okay, well, I got this, we're going on, we can help you with this. And
so it's kind of like that next step, basically, beyond the house sometimes, where they've been in the house. Like, that's usually the first step when they come out of incarceration or wherever, is they come into the house, right? The house. And how many people can live at the house? Five at a time.
We can actually, we double them up, we can put 10, but you know, you're not incarcerated anymore. We want you to feel, want you to have that freedom, your own space.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And we don't have 24/7 someone staying and watch over, because I didn't sign up for to be a babysitter. When you come there, you said, this is what you want, this is the way you're going to live. And each man holds each man accountable, because with the ministry here, the way I tell these guys that walk in, that if he gets in trouble and you know about it and you haven't said anything about it, guess what? When he leaves, you're going with him. So they hold each other accountable, you know. So, and it's been, that's right now, like I said, you know, you have those waves. You have that great group of guys that, you know everything's going to be, and you don't worry about it. Then you had a group that comes and says, oh, Lord, what's going to happen next?
We need to hear God, yeah, no kidding. And so, Andy, do you have kind of an idea of where God might be going with this ministry? And I'll get both your opinions on this, but do you want to start on that? Like, where do you see God going with this?
Well, I think that over the years, the vision that he's given us has been effective. And so I see a lot the same.
Yeah.
We have an opportunity.
If it's not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah, well, kind of, but it also with we know that our greatest need in life is love, a place to belong.
It's that simple, yeah.
Yeah, you know, I interview guys in prison to come to the house, and the one question that I'd ask all of them at some point in the interview was, what do you think your greatest need is today? And you got varying answers, but the one that I always wanted to hear was, I need a place to belong.
Yeah.
And if that was their attitude, then you could work with them. But we also know that planting seeds is extremely important to God. You know, so in those tough situations where a guy comes and doesn't turn out like you wanted to, but he's been there for a period of time, and we planted some seeds. He's felt love from the other residents, from volunteers, from people. He's felt that that's a seed in his life that he's going to take with him no matter where he goes.
Yeah.
And in some place it's
God still knows where he's at.
Yeah, it's an
Knows
intent
it.
that the process of change is such a long-term, intense process. Yeah,
And very personal. Yeah, very personal. It's different for every person. I think.
Yeah, different for every person, but there's no formula.
Right.
Yeah, it's just long-term, intense pouring into someone and people that begins to let them understand that they're loved.
Yeah, they matter.
They matter.
They matter. Yeah, what happens
And
matters.
when that starts to change, they've been kicked around this long now, so it's got to change. So I matter, and I can. That's why it's so important for us to give these guys opportunities to give back.
Right.
Because then as they give back, they can see, I do have value. I can do something.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Andy said now, it's all of a sudden reminds me when I came home and that first night I went over to First Baptist Church where they had the Bible study. I was so nervous and scared because when I go in there, all these people are going to know why you in the prison and what you did, and they want to just. And I go over there. Everybody knew I just came home from prison. No one asked me why I go to prison or anything. They were all just really showing me love and kindness. And I'm like, when I leave, I'm like, what is wrong with those folks? They're weird.
Why would they care?
You know what I'm saying? Don't they know what I did?
Right.
Yeah, and that's what, is amazing about this here, because we had a guy who was the next chapter. He came to the house, and he had been there a while, and he came to me, and he was in tears. And he says, I feel like such a phony. I just got to come to you, and everybody's so nice to me here. Nobody knows anything about me, And he was in tears about what he had done in his past, and nobody had asked him, and he hadn't told anybody, and he just wants to come clean. And I looked at him and says, dude, I knew everything about you before you got here. He said, well, why do y'all treat me like that? I said, because we don't care about what you did before you got here. We care about who you are now.
Yeah.
We're going to love you regardless.
Yeah. Who did God create you to be,
And I mean, that really, that struck me like it, because I know how I felt when I came in and nobody was, I had expectations out of them, but they had no expectations out of me. And that's what I tell them. Someone asked me and said, so what do you expect from a guy when he comes there? And I said, okay, when you brought a baby home from the hospital, what did you expect? Did you tell him, now you're here,
right.
It's time for you to earn your keeps?
Go clean your room.
Go clean your room.
Like I said, me, I was 41 years old and realized that I knew absolutely nothing. And that was hard. But that's where Andy came in. I wonder why he take the time to invest in me like he did. What did you see that I didn't even see in myself?
Yeah, but we do expect participation.
Yeah.
That's what we say. In God's economy, you give to get.
Right.
Yeah, and you have got to participate. You've got to engage with the community.
Yeah.
And that's really key. We really see that people that do that, we see much more transformation than for people that resist that and kind of stay on their own. Yeah, so that's really, really important. It isn't about a list of chores that you got to get done, but it's engaging with the people that you're around and getting to know one another and building that relationship. And that's extremely difficult for a lot of these folks that have never had that influence.
Exactly.
So it's a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, really,
and patience.
The ministry, really, if you boil it down to its core, is about breaking off false identities from people that they've lived with maybe their whole lives, and restoring God's identity in their lives, so that they can truly live. I mean, it's almost like these false identities hold people captive
more so than prison even. I mean,
Oh,
people
yeah.
are walking around basically in a prison of false identities
Yeah.
their whole lives, and it's equally as destructive in a lot of ways. I mean, or they come out of prison still with that false identity, you know,
Yeah,
or even worse, you know.
I don't think Walter said it tonight, but he said it in the past. The day that he was able to be honest with that
The prosecutor, the judge, yeah.
and say, I did it.
Hmm.
He was free.
Yeah.
He was free.
That's a huge moment. I mean, that, and I said this earlier, that was a crossroads moment right there in your life that really changed the course of your life.
I had such a peace about me that when I came back to the unit, everybody looks at me and says, "You going home? You got probation. You going to treatment." I said, "No, I'm going to prison." They didn't believe it. They did not believe it because they could actually see something about me, the calmness and the peace that I had. And I tell you right today, the 2 years I spent in jail and prison was the best 2 years of my life. I learned more in those 2 years. It came closer to God than I got to know more about Jesus because my thoughts were at first, you know, Jesus, he didn't die for me. He died for those people back then. I didn't. What that has to do with me? But then, you know, I started to learn that, you know, it was not that I were there, but he knew that I was going to need the sins that I was going to commit. I'm going to need his forgiveness. I'm going to need his bloodshed, you know, because my righteousness is absolutely nothing, you know. So my righteousness depends on him. You know, 2 Corinthians 5:17 became my favorite verse out of the whole Bible. Any man's in Christ, he's a new creation. All he's going to do is come, you know. And I used to worry about when they said it's a new creation, that it was something that I had to manufacture.
Right.
You're not a creator. You don't have a creator. That's God, you know. God's the
It'd be
creator.
another mess.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly.
Go from one
You
mess
know what
to
your
the other.
creations look like.
Oh man, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, and that's exactly it. I mean, that's actually the perfect verse for your ministry, honestly.
Oh,
That-
yeah.
It
It's
goes
on
to
a
the heart
lot
of
of-
what I just said. I mean,
It's on a lot
really
of stuff
restored.
around there, sweatshirts,
Or-
t-shirts.
Yeah.
Or I'm not ashamed of the gospel because it's the power of God for the salvation.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
what I use a lot.
Wow, yeah. So I was kind of curious. You mentioned you sent out letters to 60 different places. It sounds like prisons and
Prisoners,
jails,
yeah.
or prisoners.
Well, they go to the
Yeah,
individuals.
it's individuals, yeah.
So how many people typically respond? I'm kind of
You know what? Most of the times, you don't hear anything back, but all of a sudden, someone's call you or send you a letter. Well, I heard about you from so-and-so, so they let me read your letter. Could you put me on the list? So you know it's effective because others, you know. And that's how it grew like that. We're sitting at 20, 25, and then, you know.
The initial contact is in the Olmsted County Jail.
Oh,
And
interesting.
then when
Okay.
they go off to, Walter goes in there weekly now. I
Okay,
used
yeah.
to go
Yeah.
with him a lot, but I don't go anymore, but he goes. And so the initial contact with the inmates are in the county jail. And then as they get sentenced and go off to various state prisons in Minnesota, then we send those letters to those different
Yeah.
prisons.
Now we got 3 that goes out that is not even in the state. One guy's in Alabama, one is in Illinois.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, far-reaching
Yeah.
ministry already here. So the way it works is you kind of, well, not recruit, but you invite people, and God, it sounds like kind of moves on the hearts of the ones that are supposed to come in and
Come in just like he came to
Yep.
the Bible study when I was going in back then. That's what he's doing now. He goes
Yeah.
in, they come out to the Bible study, and that's where the initial relationship began.
is at a Bible study, and then so then they live at the house. It sounds like
Yeah.
5 of them. And is there a time limit on how long they can be in the house, or how does
That
that
work for life. I ain't never
Yeah.
kicked no. One
That's
person.
what I was wondering.
One person. I actually told him he had to go
Okay.
because it was nothing else you could get out of here. You've got everything. It's time to get out on your own.
Okay, so it's more like get out of the nest. You know, you've outgrown the nest.
Mama bird.
Yeah, the mama bird getting the baby out of the
and
nest.
it's so
yeah.
funny because Monday before last, I went to a lodge meeting. He is now the master of the house at the Masonic Lodge.
Oh, really?
I joked. I told Andy, my buddy Ross is now the Grand Poobah.
Yeah. So that's where the network for life comes in, not just network for 2 years or 1 year or 6 months or something. It's more you can stay here till you're ready to really fly.
Well, you've been living one way for 25, 30 years. 6, 8, 12, 14. Don't do nothing. Don't even scratch the surface. Because, like I said, I had been living, I was 41 years old, and now I've been doing this for 24 years. I still don't know nothing.
No, I mean, we've had a lot of people on here saying, I'm still learning.
I got some ideas, but
there's new stuff every day, every moment, basically. But so that's what really strikes me about this is, usually there's a formula built into ministries where it's like, or even like sober houses or things like that, where you could be here this amount of time and then you need to move out or whatever, but then the cycle continues, or it doesn't break the cycle then because they know I've only got this amount of time, so I just have to make it through this amount of time, then I'll go back to what I was doing. Here it's more like, no, you stay until you're good, basically, and we're not going to force you out.
The gratitude
you never have
changes.
that pressure. Yeah.
The gratitude changes. You stop participating, and that's what gets you put out quicker than anything when you started living life on your own.
Okay.
That's the way you want to live, then going on. Like I said, I tell them all the time, I can't stop you from living any way you want to live. You're just not going to live it here.
Interesting. So how often do you actually have people move on? I mean, on average, do you think, are they there typically years then, it sounds like?
18 months is as long as I've had somebody. And
okay.
Well, I can't wait till June. That's my little buddy. He's a kid. He's going to mission school in June. So.
And he's very interesting. He was when he first came to the house, Walter's about getting ready to ask him to leave because he just wasn't. And they went on a retreat for a weekend, and it changed him. And now that was a year ago.
Yeah.
And in June, he's going to a mission school.
Wow.
So,
it's incredible.
How old is he?
He's turned 20.
Yeah, just turned 20.
I would love to see ministries like this all over the place. I mean, just everywhere. I mean, houses like this where people could feel safe coming and even people probably have ministries that God's placed in their hearts similar to this.
Yeah.
And it could be for people that aren't even incarcerated. I mean, I think people deal with loneliness a lot and disappointment, and they lock themselves away a lot for a lot of different reasons. I mean, and maybe God's putting that on someone's heart at home right now. I mean, you can see how this came into being. We want this to be an encouragement to you that maybe there's a ministry in your heart too that God wants to see grow. It'll bless 100 people also, and who knows who they might touch or whose lives might be impacted. Their kids, their grandkids, their spouses, their brothers and sisters. I mean, whatever it is.
We're watching a guy at the house right now. He had a friend that overdosed and left a fiance with 6 kids and no place to stay. So he's remodeling. He took it on his own to remodel. He put a crew together to raise money to remodel this house. And Andy's a part of it. Dom is a part of it. Jamie. These guys are pouring into others, And this guy who's doing this here, I honestly tuck him in because I knew in 2 weeks I was going to kick him out anyway because he was so cocky and had everything. and I watch him. I watched the transformation in his life, and I'm watching now how he's giving back, and he's excited about it.
And that's what you were saying, that's the whole point of this is, God will fill them up so they can pour into other people's lives, and I think that's really how it's supposed to work, really. I mean, that is very biblical.
Yeah, it's part of God's economy.
Right.
Everything we're looking for, God gives us when we give. That joy and peace.
So I'm curious. So how many kids did you end up having in the end? 4 in the end.
Yeah.
So what do they think about all of this? Like,
You know what? Now the 3 that growing up with me, I had one that I found when he was 28 years old. I found him on Facebook.
Okay. Okay.
But his relationship today with me is just like he grew up with me with the rest of the kids,
Yeah.
But the ones that grew up with me, they knew the old dad, and they know the dad now, and they tells me, how proud they are of me, and it makes me feel good, because I remember coming home and sitting down with each one of them one-on-one, telling them how sorry I am and what, because it impacts them, and I tell the guys that all the time, if you want your kid to end up in jail or end up on drugs, then you keep living the way you're living. But if you want your kids to do something different, then you got to show them. You got to do something different. You got to become a godly man. You got to become that priest of the house that you're supposed to be, And I mean, that's what I try to preach. Like I said, I know I got 6 grandkids now that I try to be different with them than I were with my own, So I try to instill all the right things with them,
Sure. Yeah.
And you do it with love and Jesus. You gotta always put that in there. You can never leave Jesus out,
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's and I really feel like what God's done is restored this generational blessing that was meant to be on your family. And I think the enemy tried to break that, but you restored it with the choice you made. I mean, literally a generational blessing that's going to bless your kids and your grandkids and great grandkids. The 7th generation. I wouldn't be surprised if there are other pastors or missionaries that end up in your family, in your lineage. I mean, just because of where you're at today. And I mean, what a blessing. I look forward to seeing what happens down the line. I hope one of them is on this show in 20 years or something, like one of your grandkids or something like that. That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome.
But it goes back to, like I said, I mentioned earlier, I had felt that I was not making a difference, and I was so broken up over it. And I told you, when Andy come to me and says, your problem, you think you're God. He asks you to do one thing, to plant a seed. Can you just be faithful to what he asks you to do? He says, he told Moses to lead the Israelites out of Egypt to the promised land. But Moses didn't get a chance to go into the promised land. He only seen it from a distance. He said, he told Abraham he was going to be the father of many nations. Abraham didn't live to see this promise, but I guess you're better than them. So I may not get to live.
You got it.
Right.
Yeah, right.
So I may not be around to see what God is going to do. But we know that he's going to do something.
That it'll be good. Yeah.
But that's what he does,
And that prayer you said will continue through time, for eternity, and it never has not returned void and never will.
Never will.
I mean, what a wonderful thing. I should let the two of you wrap up. Are there any final words that you would like people to know about your ministry or that we have, or anything we haven't discussed that you would like people at home to know?
We are a 501c non-profit jail and prison ministry. We get no state, no government, no county funding because we know and honestly believe that Jesus is the answer. Jesus is the one who changed lives. We can't do that. We can't manufacture that. And we want to know that we're at 917 4th Avenue Northwest. The doors are always open. We invite you to come and see what we do. We have a Monday night Bible study from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock. We have a Saturday morning breakfast. The Monday night is mixed, men and women, children, anybody is welcome. The Saturday morning is a men breakfast. we invite you to come in, share, sit down with the men, because we can always use godly men to mentor these guys that are coming in and out, because like I said earlier, I was 41 years old and had not a clue. And if Andy wouldn't have invested in my life, I probably still wouldn't have a clue. So please feel free. You can contact us through a mail at 917 4th Avenue Northwest, Rochester, Minnesota 55901. You can reach me by phone, 507-202-2784. You can email us at nflrochester@gmail.com and look us up on the web, Rochester Network for Life.mn. Rochester.mn.
Yeah, Network for Life Rochester.
Yep.
I think it's actually networkforlifemn.com. But
All right.
I'll link it.
Okay.
Right now.
Right on. Thank you. But the rest of the information is correct.
I have the same problem.
They're easy to find. Yep.
Yeah.
As well put.
Yep.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and would you mind closing in a prayer? Or yeah. All right.
Lord, we do thank you for every opportunity that you put in front of us to build a relationship with someone. We thank you for the love of Jesus that allows us to love one another. Thank you for this ministry that has allowed us to come and talk about Rochester Network for Life, and for the way that you are so faithful each and every day, Lord, to meet our every need. We pray that you would be pleased to continue to glorify yourself through it in every way. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Well, that was awesome. I hope you're all encouraged at home to seek out relationship, encourage relationship, and know that God's relationship is for life and beyond. So be encouraged. Next week, make sure you tune in. We have Maya Hagan. And Liberty will be with as well to talk about the next What concert that they have coming up here. So you can get all the details on that. Very exciting. You've probably seen her on here a couple times before in the past.
We've had her before, we'll have her again.
We'll have her again. It's awesome. They really bring the show, I tell you. So definitely another good ministry to support. So have a wonderful week.